Hey, you guys. Welcome back to the Level Up podcast. I was about to say academy, but you are not in the academy right now. You are listening to the podcast. Hopefully, many of you are actually in the academy. And if you're not, get yourself in there. It is the best place to be for women growing a network marketing business. Shameless plug, kicking the podcast episode off with a commercial, apparently. Didn't mean to, but c'est la vie. I have a really super simple podcast episode for you today. I was about to go live and do this training for my team, and I'm still going to. I'm going to give them specific examples and dive a little bit deeper, but I was like, this makes it a really excellent podcast episode because I feel like I want to give you something to think about. And I want to give you something to kind of like reflect on and look at inside of your own business journey. And so, my question for you today is, are you playing the long game or the short game? Or are you marrying the two in the very best way? And so let me tell you what I mean by that. The long game is like thinking about your business with longevity, right? Like not just looking at what's happening today. What do I desire today? What am I going for today? But asking yourself, like, where do I want to be 6 months from now, 1 year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now? Being able to envision where it is you're going and actually starting to put pieces in place. And I call it planting seeds, right? So that you are primed to get to that place. I think a lot of people are sometimes afraid to think about the long game, haven't yet begun to trust themselves as business owners. They are almost, and I started out this way too, and I hear this all the time, right? I'm just going to do my best. I'm just going to see where this takes me. I'm just going to let it happen. And what I really want you to know at the end of the day is life doesn't just happen to you, right? Life is always happening for you, but you got to go out there and you got to like put the shit in place that you want to make happen. You get to be the director of your life. You get to decide like what happens. And the things that you do builds for the tomorrow that you're living. And that's true all the time. And so I'm not here to dissuade you from thinking about what's going on in my business today. The short game is like really like, what am I working for right now? What can I do right now that will move my business forward and get me like closer to my goals? And sometimes the short game is going to be really important to play, like to do, right? Like maybe you've got an incentive or you're close to a pay upgrade or you're working on something, right? Like, or maybe you just launched something brand new and you're like putting all the things together for that. Like the short game, there's nothing wrong with the short game, but I also want to like encourage you to start thinking about the long game too. And knowing that what you do today plants the seeds for what you're going to grow tomorrow. And so for me, when I like sit back and I reflect and I ask myself, like, what would playing the long game look like in my business, right? Like playing the short game is sending the messages now, offering the things now, running an incentive or a sale or a promo now, because I'm interested in getting sales or having people join my team right now. Don't get me wrong, I'm literally the worst at having patience. I was just saying this to a mentor today. I'm like, I just want it to all happen right now, right? I'm so fired up. I'm so excited. And I want all the dominoes to just start like rolling over and gaining that momentum right now. But I'm smart enough to know that if you're going to build true sustainability inside your business, if you truly desire to build an empire, consistent income, and like something that leaves an impact on the world, that the long game is actually more important than the short game. So let me give you a little bit of an example, right? Like sometimes the short game that we play burns the long game. So I experienced this a lot in my business journey. It's what led to the majority of burnout that I felt. And it's really where I operated for a couple of years. And honestly, it got me where I needed to go. Like it made the paycheck, it grew the team, it did all the things, but it wasn't really internally or personally good for me. But another, like one example might be, let's say you have a incentives that you're going for this month, and like the sales number is out of reach. So you literally do every single thing that you can think of to do that month to achieve that incentive, right? You do all the reach outs, you offer all the things, you do all, like it's like monumental, and you achieve that. But then you get to the beginning of the next month and you're like, well, shit, not only am I exhausted and like, yeah, I'm excited that I hit it, but I'm feeling really deflated because I literally used every single thing that I had in my toolbox last month. So where do I even begin this month, right? I did all the reach outs. I exhausted all the leads. So sometimes in my business journey, and I talked about this in a podcast like about a month ago, like I have decided that certain incentives really didn't fit with where I was at in my life at that time. And for me, that's a little bit about playing the long game, right? Like knowing that I'm in it. Would you do things differently if you knew that you were going to be in this business for a year, 5 years, 10 years? Would you do it differently if you knew that you were building consistent income, that it was all going to come into place, that it was inevitable? I think one of the main reasons why we play the short game is that the carrots that are dangled in front of us, they feel more achievable than the actual bigger dream that we have. Right? So let's talk a little bit about what kinds of things you can be doing if you're playing the long game. And I think back to the beginning of my network marketing journey, and it wasn't necessarily that I was playing the long game, but I was just trying all the things. And if I'm really to ask myself, what were the tipping points in building that business? It was the long game things, right? Like starting a networking group with women in a local town. That was not an immediate fix. That took months, if not a year, to establish those relationships, to boost where it started to trickle back into my business. But it's one of those defining moments that when I look back in my business journey, I'm like, that was the thing. That was one of those bigger domino things that like just started to create that ripple impact inside my business. But that was a long game thing. Right? Sending samples out or doing follow-up or networking, like I was just referring to, or running like classes, or even the content you put on social media is playing the long game, because you're building a brand, and it takes a while to establish a brand and a voice online. But I do truly believe it goes back to that question, like if you knew that your success was inevitable, if it was always coming towards you and all you had to do was take those steps and put the pieces in play, like how many seeds would you be willing to plant? And we never know, like even like I always think that gardening is just one of the really best analogies for building any kind of business, because we plant these gardens, right? We put all these seeds out there, but we're not really sure which seed in and of itself is going to be the one that sprouts. And sometimes like they all start popping up in different places and at different times, and we're amazed by them. And sometimes we look at our garden, we're like, well, you're a little bit of a shit show right now. I better do some like replanting, repotting, like trimming, like perfecting. And sometimes if I think about my own gardens and my own growth per se, like it's taken years to get my gardens to where I'm just like drive into my driveway every morning and I'm like, wow, you're beautiful. And if I'm being really totally honest in brackets, I'm still a little bit like, these hydrangeas didn't grow this year. And like, I better do something about that. But like truly, I built this English garden. I built this English garden at my last house. I was in that house for 7 or 8 years. And in the last year, I finally started to see like how beautiful, like what it was like I started to see my original vision come to life. And that is no different than your business, right? The problem is the majority of the people are looking for that like quick fix, that like immediate high, the thing that doesn't really last, but gets you the accolades right then and there. And they aren't willing to play that long game. And because those immediate like quick fixes, they don't last forever. And they take a lot of energy to get, because you're not stacking them on top of another. you just burn out or you just quit, right? Whereas if you play the long game and you truly water that garden and you love on that garden, you tend to that garden, take care of it, you replant, you repot, you put new seeds in when you need to put new seeds in, you trim it up in the spring or fall or whatever you're supposed to do in your garden. Like when you truly care about it like that, and you're patient and you know that things will grow and sprout when they're meant to grow and sprout, then you're going to have that English garden and it's going to be more beautiful than you ever imagined it could be. But it's the long game. It's the long game, right? And sometimes we have to give up some things in the short game in order to achieve the end game, the long game. And what's interesting is I really truly believe like we're never really there, right? We always have this vision of what it's going to feel like when we get there, what's going to look like. And like every time you get there, there is just a platform that's a waiting point to something else you want to get to, right? There's always another platform on that mountain. So start enjoying the process. Start planting seeds that you truly desire to sprout, right? Don't bring someone on your team simply to hit a number. Bring someone on your team that you desire to work with, that you want to link arms with, that you can see how beautiful that relationship would be and how much this could impact and change their life, right? Bring someone on your team that's motivated and excited rather than dragging someone along behind the back of your car simply because you need to hit a number that actually, like when you look back on it in 5 years from now, you're not going to be like, that was the tipping point, because it wasn't, right? It was the seeds that all came together to sprout it all together. I don't think that was a real sentence at the end of the day, but I think you totally get what I mean. So think about like, what are some of the, like, definitely play your short game, have fun in your business, do the things that like you need to be doing on a daily basis, right? Absolutely. But what are the long game strategies that you're currently working in your business? Where are you planting seeds? What relationships are you establishing that could one day become customers or teammates? Or what systems are you building for your team that become duplicatable systems that other people can take and run with and build their own business, right? And step into leadership that way. I always think like the difference between, and I see this all the time, right? When someone asks me a question, like someone on my team asks me a question, I have a choice, right? I can give them the answer, or I can teach them how to find the answer on their own. If I give them the answer without also teaching them in that moment, I will be the person that they come to every single time they have a question. If I teach them how to find their own answer, all of a sudden they're empowered to know how to do it the next time. And then not only that, but they can teach their downlines, how to find those answers as well, right? So you get to be a source of inspiration and a source of information, but step into the coaching world and actually play the long game there as well. And this is the same with our kids, right? Teaching my kids how to do things takes a hell of a lot longer than doing them myself, right? Like, so Henry wants to learn how to make grilled cheese. Well, you know what? I'm not super patient, and Henry takes a lot of patience. And so I'm going to teach him how to make grilled cheese. It is 1,000 times easier for me to simply, on that one given day, make him the grilled cheese. So much faster, no patience required, just make the grilled cheese. On the day, and it might take me 3-4 times to teach him to make the grilled cheese. This is just an example. Maybe it'll only take me one. I mean, we taught him to tie his shoelaces 2 weeks ago, and that was like an absolute production. So use that same reference, but like it might take me 3 or 4 times to teach him to make that grilled cheese. But after those 3 or 4 times, all of a sudden he's making the grilled cheese on his own every single time. And so now I've actually saved myself that energy because I'm not making him grilled cheese until he's 36 and moving out of my house, right? Who knows? So think about coaching that way. How can you teach people so that they're empowered to be able to figure things out on their own? And I feel like that was like totally a tangent, but I really do believe that that also comes into play with the long game. In the short game, you tell the people the answers, you give them the push that they need. In the long game, you have patience with where they're at in their business. You support them with where they're at what their goals are, what their journey is, and you give them the tools that they need to be an empowered business owner on their own. All right, you guys, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I would love to hear what your long-term goals are, your plans are, where you're planting those seeds. Tag me over on the socials at Lori Irvin Coaching. Make sure that you're in the Level Up community over on Facebook. It's my free group for women in network marketing. I love you forever and always, and I will see you next week. Same bad time, same bad channel, over on the podcast.